Welcome to this short video of life as an Actons trainee. We hope this will give you a good insight as to what it's like to be a trainee at Actons and what we're looking for as part of the trainee recruitment process. I'm Gordon Monaghan and I'm a director in the dispute resolution team at Actons. I'm also the training principal for the firm. I'm joined today by Stephanie McCourt, who's a second year trainee sat in our corporate team, and also by Waleed Tariq, who's a newly qualified solicitor in our employment team, but who spent his 2-year training contract with us. So, Steph, perhaps you can start us off by providing an explanation as to how you arrived in the law.
So I had a different route. I didn't study law at university. I actually studied human sciences. While I was studying human sciences, I undertook some modules which involved the law, which actually piqued my interest more than the science side. So after I graduated, I did the GDL at Nottingham University. Did that for a year, undertook the 7 main modules, and then following that, I took the LPC for the year at Nottingham University too.
Great. And Waleed, why did you decide to apply for your training contract at Actons?
Well, when I looked at the firm's history and the work it did, I felt that I'd received, the highest standard of training and access to an exceptional client base. When I came to the assessment centre, I found everybody to be very welcoming and very warm. I felt that I would fit right in and thrive.
Excellent. And Steph, tell us a bit more about the assessment centre. How did you find it?
As Waleed said, I found everyone very welcoming and warm as well. The start of this assessment centre was we were introduced by the panel, and then we also met current trainees who answered any questions that we had. And in the morning we had our panel interview, and while we were waiting to go into our panel interview, we had time to prepare for a short 5-minute presentation, which happened after lunchtime. And during lunch, we had a networking session where we were allowed to meet all the other trainees and directors of the firm as well, and they answered any questions that we had.
Great. And Waleed, what seats did you undertake during your 2-year training contract?
So my first seat was a 6-month seat in Actons' personal injury team. I then moved on to do a 6-month seat in the property team. But then at the start of the second year of my training contract, I was fortunate enough to be offered a year-long seat in the employment team. And I've since qualified into that team as well as an NQ.
And Steph, what sort of work are you finding you're doing on a day-to-day basis then?
I'm involved mainly in the transactional work in the corporate and commercial department. Lots of different types of transactions, lots of different types of work, but mainly it's drafting documents, drafting all the transactional documents, or meeting with clients, whether that is the initial interview with the client at the start to check their ID or to take their instructions, all the way through to completing the actual transaction itself.
Great. And what's the supervision like that you're receiving at the moment?
I'd say supervision at Actons is one of the highlights of the firm. We have supervision with either the director that we're working with or the fee earner that we're working with, but we're able to ask questions to them and we get feedback straight away. And then we also have bi-weekly meetings with our supervisor in that department where we can raise any more questions that we have and just get general feedback.
And Waleed, in your 2-year training contract, what would you say was the highlights of your training contract?
I think the biggest highlight for me in my training contract was definitely to be able to attend hearings, albeit virtually. I think effectively having the trust and confidence of the supervisors to be able to see a case through to completion was a really, really big plus for me. It really helped me build confidence in myself as well and really easily transition into the role of an NQ.
And Waleed, you sort of alluded to it there with the reference to virtual hearings, but obviously your 2-year training contract was very much during the heart of the pandemic. What would you describe were the biggest challenges facing you as a trainee during the pandemic?
Well, Gordon, it was a strange feeling to be starting to work from home, and then effectively going into a new team without a lot of interaction with them face to face. But this was rectified very quickly because immediately my team was able to organize a lot of weekly calls, several times a week, in fact, to catch up on various things, not just work, and really to check in and see how I was. And I found that to be very, very pleasant as well. And it really helped me sort of figure out where what I should be doing.
And Steph, what would you say are the skills in the year so far? What skills do you think you've developed since starting your training contract?
So I've worked in the property department and the corporate and commercial department. So one skill that I've definitely improved upon is drafting documentation, obviously across different departments. Also, when I was in property, would be reporting to clients when we were taking part in a purchase. So being able to pull together all the information and being able to report that to the client in a concise way, as well as time management skills across both departments. As Waleed said, we have to work from home sometimes. We've got a hybrid working arrangement. So being able to organise your own work at home and being able to meet all the deadlines and make sure that you are able to kind of control your own workload while you're doing it at home yourself has been a skill that I've managed to work upon this past year. And also client contact and client communication, particularly in the corporate commercial department, being able to speak to clients and be involved in all the client meetings.
Great. And finally, Steph, what do you think sets Actons apart from the rest of the marketplace?
I've kind of briefly mentioned it before, but I think it's the level of work that trainees are able to take part in. As mentioned, we can work directly with the directors on their matters. We can work directly with the fee earners and be involved in everything at a high level, which when speaking to other trainees in other firms, they don't necessarily have the same exposure that we do. And I think that kind of sets us up well for our career in the future.
That's great, Steph. Thank you. I think that probably concludes our Q&A session for today. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank both Steph and Waleed for taking the time today to answer my questions. I hope this has been helpful and gives you an insight into what life at Actons is like. And if you do have any further queries, my contact details and Matt Coleman, who is our practice manager at Actons, appear on the website, and please feel free to drop us an email or give us a call. Thanks very much.